Welcome to KPOV's Critical Conversations podcast, dedicated to featuring unique perspectives, challenging mundane thought, and questioning the norm. Listen at kpov.org, on YouTube, or on your favorite podcast app.
Every second Thursday of the month, we welcome someone from the Environmental Center to talk about sustainability. Today, I'm joined by Kolenda, the Environmental Center's Development Coordinator, and Lauren Otter Rogers from Camp Tamarack to talk about a June 12th workshop called Supporting Gender, Expansive, and Transgender Youth. Al and Lauren, thank you for being on the point with me today.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, we're so excited.
This workshop is organized by the Environmental Center, Camp Tamarack, and the Children's Forest of Central Oregon, but also involves the Transactive Gender Project from Portland and Jamie Bowman, co-founder of the Central Oregon Transgender Health Coalition. How did all of these groups come together to bring this workshop here?
You know, it kind of came together a little bit spontaneously after a lot of the things, the community backlash that was happening after some of the Camp Tamarack incidences and other instances in the community. I started talking to my coworkers at the Environmental Center, thinking of ways that we could make some sort of training that would allow all of the outdoor educators in our area to just have some more tools to be able to talk about some of these things, to feel a little bit more equipped with some knowledge. And so we started talking to our partners, and naturally that included Katie from the Children's Forest and Otter from Camp Tamarack. Mm-hmm. And after talking to Otter about some of the other trainings that they've done out at Camp Tamarack, they recommended Jen, who's up at Transactive, and it was a really great fit. Then we decided to add in Jamie Bowman as well, because we knew that some of the experiences of transgender folks up in Portland are not going to be the same experiences of folks here in Central Oregon. So we wanted to have a local piece added into the training as well.
Otter, would you mind just telling us a little bit about what happened at Camp Tamarack?
Yeah, so this past fall, there was a school that decided to pull their kids out of outdoor school as a result of us including and allowing all students to participate, which does include gender expansive youth. And so luckily we had been prepared, having done trainings with Transactive in the past, to be able to protect the students on site, and to prepare parents for what happens at Tamarack, which is teaching kids about science outside with incredible youth mentors.
Who do you recommend attend this workshop?
I would say folks that are just interested in working with kids. Any person who works with youth and wants to learn how to affirm and support and create safe spaces for, I guess any person in our community. The focus had been people who are student-facing, working with kids. But I don't know if you have anything to add, Al.
No, I don't think so. I think you hit it right on the head. I think originally we were really excited for it to be for outdoor educators, and then realized quickly after the first virtual training that this can really be applied to any educator in the field. And some folks who weren't necessarily in outdoor education joined us for that training and shared how valuable it was. So yeah, it can be for any person working with youth.
What can people expect from this workshop when they attend?
I think that since we've already had the privilege of being able to see the virtual one, we kind of got a feel for what the style was like. It's very fun, silly. Jen does a really great job of making all of the language and the takeaways pretty easy to understand. Incorporates a really forgiving environment for people to ask questions, to explore different scenarios. And so just a fun, goofy environment that's safe for people to ask questions. And also a really great local piece that will provide you with a lot of resources for, things that you can look into here in Central Oregon to get more knowledge about transgender and non-binary programs and experiences here in Central Oregon.
Can you tell me about what it would mean to youth to have adults who have had this training, but to have those adults in their lives?
I think that this training provides adults with the ability to just be able to affirm children. It's a really easy thing to do, to be able to affirm children with their identities that they have chosen. And something that we don't need the children to be the teachers of us. We can take the time to learn ourselves as adults and then provide that safe space for children.
Have you done the training already?
Yep. So we did the virtual training a few weeks ago, but then Camp Tamarack has been working with Transactive for about 3 years now, doing different trainings to learn how we at camp can support and affirm trans, non-binary, gender expansive youth, to be able just to create more just safe spaces in our community.
Otter, I'm going to assume that Otter is your camp name. But I don't want to assume that. That's not the case. Can you tell me a little bit about your camp name?
Yeah, my camp name is Otter. So I went to outdoor school in Eugene when I was in high school, but my camp name was Kermit. And then when I decided I wanted to go to outdoor school and work as an adult, I called my sister on the phone, my identical twin sister, and I said, oh my gosh, I'm so nervous. I don't want to be called Kermit. But that was when I was in high school. And she just said, why don't you just choose the name Otter? And I was like, oh, okay, cute. And that was it. And
so it was chosen for you by someone else.
Yep, by my sister. Yep.
That's great. What is something that you've learned in the training from Transactive that you're excited to apply in your work?
What I think is great is just not only learning about what our current community is doing here in Central Oregon, which is a lot of work to be able to make visible all of these incredible humans in our community, just about terminology, language, and statistics of how much harm trans, non-binary youth still face in society. And I think, and in Oregon, a space that I think a lot of people feel is very positive and affirming, can still cause a lot of harm to students. So I thought that was great.
How about you, Elle? What are you excited to bring back to the Environmental Center from what you've learned?
Yeah, I've just been really privileged to be able to be working at a place that allows you to just bring in your own projects, things that are of interest to you, and be able to put like staff time into building this and to building it for our community and for our coworkers. A lot of what the Environmental Center does is education and outreach. We pride ourselves on providing the community with as much education about sustainability and about reducing, reusing, and recycling, composting our waste. And so being able to provide our staff and our employees with this knowledge and education is just something I'm really looking forward to sharing with them. We are on our own DEI journey, and this is just one way that I feel like we are growing our toolbox, and I'm excited to be able to use a lot of these terminologies and things that I have used most of my adult life back in the office, and that also creates a safer space in the office just to be yourself. So,
could either of you tell me why pronouns matter?
Yes. So what I will tell teachers at camp when we're talking about how we introduce ourselves with pronouns, I'll say using pronouns is one of the easiest things that we can do to break the culture that just because you look a certain way, people can make assumptions about you. Additionally, it's one of the easiest things that people can do to affirm and make the people who they're interacting with feel safe and accepted and seen by you.
Do you have anything to add to that, Al?
Oh, I just think it's becoming a part of the culture, which I feel really lucky to have that just be a part of life right now. And being able to start that at such a young age and provide education at a young age, I think is so important, that kids can be whoever they want to be, and that knowing that their gender identity and just like even understanding, like if they're a boy, they want to be a boy, or, you know, if they are assigned male at birth and they want to be, you know, considered a woman, that process and their feelings that they're going through, that starts out at a really young age. And so it's younger than we think. In our training, I think we heard between the ages of 4 and 5. So being able to talk about that and being open to kids expressing what they want to be called and to use as pronouns is really important.
This workshop seems to be most about helping youth, correct, and working with youth. What kind of resources are there for people who want to learn how to work with adults who may be dismissive of this kind of training?
Well, I know that Transactive isn't only doing workshops for youth-based education. They do a whole bunch of trainings for staff, like for entire organizations that would like to maybe rethink their culture or like provide different language, change up their website, start like a DEI journey. So I know that Transactive is a really great resource that's local in Portland, but Otter, maybe you know someone more local, Central Oregon.
The most of the work that we've done has been with Transactive, but I think a lot of that comes from how they educate, from a very data-driven, just like methodology that I think is a really solid way of educating people who are maybe on the fence or unsure, not understanding why any of this matters. So we've mainly worked with Transactive.
What systems do you think you'll see changing at Camp Tamarack now?
Well, I would say, so prior to us starting to work with them, we were just a little bit in the dark. We had no idea what we could even do. And it started with just a phone call with Jen, where she just told us one of the easiest things that you could do is every program you start with, every time you meet kids, you tell them that every single person is welcome in your space. And so we always do that. We try to have different representation within our staff and our student leaders to make sure that kids see themselves in the leaders that they're working with. We also have on our website lots of information about how we make sure that like students are supported while they're at camp with like changing rooms and being able to have showers that are separate so they feel safe and changing and showering by themselves. But so we have, I would say, like really radically changed our program through the years from working with Jen in ways that felt really big. But then what we've seen in our community and the safe space that we've provided for every single child has been pretty impressive.
What's next after this workshop?
Well, the really exciting part about this workshop is that all of the proceeds for this workshop are going to some local queer LGBTQ Two-Spirit plus IA, all of the alphabet. Out in the Wild is one of them that's receiving some of the funding or some of the proceeds, and then the Queer Creators Collective is the other one. So we're kind of piggybacking this workshop with our June or July Green Drinks. In July Green Drinks, we're going to be, it's a local event that the nonprofit puts on, and we're going to be showing a documentary series, and it's about some of the injustices or the challenges that queer folks have experienced throughout climate change and some of the big climate change events, some wildfires, and I think an earthquake as well. And so the documentary series is supposed to be a second opportunity for folks who maybe attended the training and would like to learn more, or just come into another space with like-minded folks who are also trying to learn. And all of the proceeds from that event as well is going to the Queer Creators Collective and Out in the Wild. So hopefully between these two events, we'll be able to provide some support for our local community.
Otter, what else are you excited about at Camp Tamarack this summer that's coming up?
So we are on our last week of outdoor school right now. So we see every single kid in Central Oregon for outdoor school. We teach them science and do lots of fun things like canoeing and campfire.
Every single kid?
For almost, well, I would say almost every school. Okay. Some of the private schools, they don't come to Tamarack, but
is it just fifth? Is it?
Fifth grade mainly,
Okay.
And we'll see kids from Lapine, from Madras, Metolius. Warm Springs, Redmond, obviously Bend, obviously, yeah. But we'll work with like 35 schools a year. But we're done tomorrow with outdoor school. We have a 2-week break, and then July we'll start summer camp, which we're really, really excited about. That's where we just get kind of wild, crazy, make our own little universe in the woods. People get pied in the face. We go snorkeling, have a carnival. It's pretty fun.
Snorkeling.
Yeah, it's really fun.
What do the kids find when they snorkel?
Sometimes lake trash. We do have a bead for that, though. Kids earn a bead for collecting lake trash. But we have lots of crawdads, some salamanders. There's a giant hidden boot that sunk to the bottom of the lake.
The legendary
boot that kids will try to look for. Yeah, that's basically it. It's a pretty small lake. So,
Al, what else is coming up at the Environmental Center that you can tell us about?
We do have the Community Innovation Fund. The deadline for that is coming up the end of July, I believe, or maybe it's July 1st. I'm sure my coworker will get mad at me for saying that. It's coming up soon. So if you're interested in applying for the Community Innovation Fund, more information can be found on our website. It's an opportunity for community members to receive funds to do sustainable projects related to reduce, reuse, recycle, compost, rethink.
Are there any upcoming volunteer opportunities with either of your groups?
Always.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Environmental Center does a happy hour in the garden. And so we have an opportunity for community members just to show up, come help out in the garden. They get a beer and a bubbly, water, whatever is their fancy, and just hang out in the garden on a beautiful summer day.
Okay. And how about at Camp Tamarack?
Yeah. So for outdoor school, which is the spring and the fall, we use high school students as volunteers to supervise cabins of kids. We work with freshmen all the way until seniors. We use about 30 high school students a week for our 7-week session in the fall. So we are always looking for high school students who maybe came to Camp Tamarack as a camper, which is always really special. But sometimes there's kids who just moved here and have never been to camp. They're in high school. They want to see what it's like to work with kids, be a leader. So we always need lots of high school students.
Okay. How can people find out more?
Yeah, if you're following our Instagram is where we do a lot of our messaging, camp_Tamarack. Okay. And also on our website, www.camptamarack.com.
Okay. And how about to find out more about the Environmental Center?
Yeah, the Environmental Center's website has a community events page, which includes our events and also other community partners' events. So you can go check out the community events page, and that's on our website, envirocenter.org.
And to wrap up, do either of you two have things you just recommend to anyone who's listening, maybe who can't attend a workshop, how they can help transgender and gender expansive youth?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Always.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like with this being Pride Month as well, just being able to see folks out in the community who are naturally going to be putting themselves in a more vulnerable space, dressing up and being silly, that's also experiencing, the people doing that are also youth. And so being able to just really identify that in your community, you see an adorable little kid running up with a dress on, you can just say, hey, you have a really cute dress on, because that could be something that was really hard for them to put on and to choose to wear that. And yeah, being open to experiencing a lot of different identities out in the world today and out in Central Oregon.
Yeah.
Al and Otter, thank you so much for joining me on The Point today.
Thank you for listening to KPOV's Critical Conversations podcast. To hear weekly interviews on important topics, please visit kpov.org/critical conversations and follow KPOV High Desert Community Radio on Facebook, YouTube, and your favorite podcast app.